Welcome to The Good, The Bad, and the Sequel Q&A. My name's Doug. The next sequel that we're going to be reviewing is Mechanic Resurrection, or Mechanic 2, starring Jason Statham, Jessica Alba, Tommy Lee Jones. First action movie we've done in a while, and it's going to be so much fun having our action sequel expert, Andrew Powers, back for the fifth time. But what I love about this movie, it led me to one of the most interesting conversations that I've ever had, just talking to somebody on the other side of the world. I talked with actor, stuntman, fight coordinator. He really does it all. Brahim Chab. Brahim was in Indonesia when we chatted last November. It was just before Thanksgiving. COVID was running rampant. He was actually hunkering down in a hotel doing his quarantine to do during pre-production for a movie. So it's so cool just hearing his perspective on the other side of the world, and just to hear somebody else's story. He grew up outside France. He started doing karate as a teen, fell in love with Jackie Chan movies and martial arts movies, and he wanted to do that. And he really dove in. So you're going to love that story. Really cool about him working and doubling Van Damme. Man, so much fun to talk with him. Even a tidbit from Hangover 2, which is a sequel that we might be covering in the future, about, really how dangerous stunts can be. And Brahim had such a great outlook about, his career in the filming industry and, what goes into some of these stunts when you really don't know until sometimes you're in the middle of it. A story he had from being on Tremors 7 and doubling John Heater. So yeah, such a fun chat. Do me a favor. It's your first time here. Welcome. Make sure that you subscribe, share, like on social media, retweet, share us with your friends. It means a lot. And on social media, you can follow us at Sequels Only. So without further ado, here is Brahim Chab. What's up, man? How are you?
Good, man. And you?
Not too bad. How's it work? So you're in Indonesia, right?
Yes, I'm in Indonesia right now.
So what's so fascinating? You're the first person I'm going to speak to, and I hope IMDb's sometimes not right, but you grew up in France?
Yep, that's correct.
Oh my God. So growing up there, what was it like? You were in Beaumont. Was that close to a city, countryside?
That's kind of like, like a small city next to Paris. Like I would need to take the train, and it would be maybe like 20 minutes of car and maybe 45 minutes of train to get there.
That's nice. That's like how far I am from New York City.
Yeah, that kind of like, like those little suburbs in America next to the big cities. Similar.
So growing up, at what age did you fall in love? How I always like to find out how people got into, being in Hollywood, doing stunt work and acting. What was the first time you thought it was something that you wanted to do?
I would say it was about maybe when I was 14 years old, 14, when I saw a Jackie Chan movie called First Strike. I saw it and I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. That's it. I saw him freaking use the ladder and hit people with it. I was like, all right, I need to do this, man.
Oh my God. So what was your first step? Just taking karate lessons? What was your first training step?
No, I started with Aikido because there was nothing else next to my place. So that was the closest thing next to my house. And, then, because, I was tired because Aikido was always only wrist locks and throws.
Yeah.
So I was kind of tired to get thrown around and never throw a punch or a kick. So I was like, okay, I need to find something where I can strike, right? So I found this karate dojo not too far from my place, maybe 20-minute bicycle ride. And that's it. I started to do karate Wado-ryu. And I combined it with Aikido. So the whole week I was basically training after school. I remember Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I was just training every day.
Oh my gosh. And Aikido, that's Seagal, right? Wasn't that his big thing?
Yeah, that's what Steven Seagal is doing. It's kind of like wrist locks and all that kind of stuff, yes. I mean, it's nice for movies. There is some pretty nice stuff for movies, but I was always more into using my legs and kicking and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I need to find something where I can throw a punch or a kick because Aikido is nice though. It's very good for movies.
No, it is because that's what he does in all the movies. Like in his earlier films, he gets people to get really close to him, and then that's when he like tosses them within seconds. Or
Exactly. Yes.
he's never running.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever ran and kicked anybody, really, in all of
No.
his
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah. That's the thing with Aikido. I always saw it like in. It's kind of something that is good for bouncers, or
Oh
it's
yeah,
very good as well for when you try to restrain somebody who's not really like a martial artist or something like that. But in the same time, you never saw anybody coming to you with a straight punch, like a Superman punch like that in a real fight. So that side of Aikido is a little bit like, that's why it gets so much heat
yeah,
online. People always say like, oh, Aikido is like, it's not good or it's not realistic because of that. But on the other hand, it's very good, I would say, like for a bouncer or
yeah,
for someone to try to restrain someone who's not aware, if you know what I mean.
yeah. No, that's true. So what was your first step? So you're doing all this, you're training all the time. What was your first step? Because that was your goal. There's some people like Richard Norton. I'm sure you've heard of him. He was like one
Oh
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
so like Richard, his step was he was just training to train and be a bouncer for like bands that would come out to Australia, like the Rolling Stones. He was just doing karate and all of that because he wanted to just do it. So yours is the end goal was like, I want to do that, like Jackie Chan. So what was your first step after all this to try to take it from the training end to be able to use it like in a film?
Well, the thing was, in Paris and France in general, it's not really a country where we have a big action movie industry. It's
Really?
very, very oriented to drama, comedy, and theater. We have a lot of big plays. It's a great place, for like artists who are really into acting. But for action movies, it's very, very small. So I tried when I finished high school, when I was 18 years old, I went for 1 year to university to become a lawyer. And I was like, screw this. I don't want to do that. That's not me. So I just started to train more and more and more every day. I was lying to my parents, telling them, "Yeah, school is going great. Like school is great. It's awesome." Every day I would go to school, and I would not even go to school. I would just say I'm going to school, but I was just going to train with some friends of mine, and we all had the same goal to do movies, right? So after a while, my parents they found out, and they were like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, guys, just relax. I have it under control." And most parents when they hear their son, they are like, what the hell? He's not going to school and he's not following, the footsteps of like, getting a 9 to 5 job, going to school and all that. So they were really, really worried. So I just told them, listen to me, I have this under control. I think I can do something in this business. So they were like, well, no matter what, you need to find a job. So I found a job on the side. I was selling cell phones in a mall, and I was just doing it to make money, right? And I was still training on the side. And there is a friend of mine who had a gymnastics school, and he invited me to go to Thailand to go to a casting for Ong Bak 2. And I was like, yeah, are you paying me to go there? He's like, yeah, the whole trip is paid for. I'm like, okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So I joined them with a couple of other guys. I think we went there 7 guys. We did the casting. They told us, sorry, but there is nothing for you guys. So it was a trip to Thailand, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, when I saw the place and I saw how much, how much impressed the people were when we did the casting, they were like kind of like welcoming. They didn't give us an opportunity, but it was kind of like I could see like, oh, they didn't know like Westerners could do that kind of stuff, like
Yeah.
gymnastic and martial art, right? So I stuck around and I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay around and see how it is. All my friends left, and I just called my mom and dad and I said, okay, well, I'm gonna stay around here and see how it goes. So from there, I started to do small castings. I started to work on on small movies in Thailand, some local movies. Then there was some Hollywood movies coming to shoot in Thailand. And that's the thing. Back then, I'm talking like 2007, there was a lot of Hollywood movies coming to shoot in Thailand because after Ong Bak, everybody thought, okay, when I'm going to Thailand, I can kick every stuntman in the head. So basically, that's what they were thinking. We're like, okay, I'm going to go to Thailand and kick the ass of every stunt guy there because that's what Tony Jaa is doing.
Yeah.
So every movie was coming to shoot in Thailand. Every Hollywood movies almost who did action, they wanted to come shoot in Thailand. So that's how I started to do action movies, basically. Just like I started in Thailand first, and then from there it took me everywhere else in the world.
Oh my God. So what was your first like Hollywood movie? Like doing the small movies, obviously you're learning and getting paid. What was the first time that you did a Hollywood movie? You're like, oh my God, because that's a lot different cameras they're using, I'm sure, and like how many people are on set.
The first film I did, Hollywood film, I remember it was Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li,
Yeah.
with Christine Kruk, and there was also Michael Clark Duncan. There was a couple of other actors. Robin Shaw is in that movie as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was the first movie I did. I remember I went to cast in this small place in Bangkok, and they didn't want to say what movie it was. So they just said it's a martial art movie. So they made me do all this stuff. And then maybe 2 weeks after, they are like, oh, you got a part in the movie. So I'm like, oh, really? Not even stunts? Like, no, you have a part with actual dialogue and stuff. I'm like, okay. So that was the first movie I have done. And I remember we did a rehearsal. Then we went to shoot. And I remember my scene was with Christine Kruk. And I had this huge crush on her when I was a teenager. I remember every time I was watching that TV show called Smallville, she was playing in it. So I was always watching the TV show, and here I am doing a scene with her. And I was like, man, this movie thing is going somewhere. I'm getting somewhere doing this. And that was kind of like the first time, that was the first movie that first Hollywood movie that I've done. And I was plenty cameras. I was kind of like, how can I say? Like, I didn't want to screw up my lines.
Yeah.
I had two lines, I remember.
And not even just that. You have a girl that you crushed on Smallville across from you. I couldn't imagine
that. Yeah. It was quite frustrating. Not frustrating. It was quite scary, and I did my lines. And I was thinking, okay, maybe that's not going to make the cut. But it did. It made the cut. And that's how it started, really, That's it.
That's awesome. So did you, going into all this, obviously Jackie Chan is the star of those movies. Did you ever think of that end of it, or just being like the acting part? Or did you think early on, like, I could do the stunts, or did you want to do both?
Honestly, when I first started, the movie business is kind of like, it's almost like everybody is trying to keep you away from it. Every time you say, I'm going to do movies, it's like, no, you can't. Or no, you cannot do this. Oh, no, in your dreams. So this whole thing about movie, it's kind of like categorized as like, oh, it's very something hard to do. But actually, it's not really hard. You just need to find something that you have to offer and, what you're good at. And then you go and pursue it. And then you sell yourself with those qualities that you have. Now, when I started, I really didn't think that will lead to acting. I thought it would just be like, I'm gonna come, throw a punch, get my ass kicked, and that would be it. That's what I did for a couple of years first. I still do it sometime now, but that's really what I was thinking first. I never thought like, okay, I'm gonna get to work with all these names that I worked with. So it was kind of like I went in that business with no real expectations. Then I got a lot out of it. And I think that's what a lot of the newcomers need to understand. When you get into this business, do not get emotional about like, oh, I'm not getting where I want to get. I'm not getting the exposure I'm supposed to get, or compare yourself with another guy. I think, you should just do it because you like doing that and no expectations at all. And then you will see slowly, if you don't get expectations, then you'll evolve in that business.
No, that's true. Especially you don't want to compare yourself to other people. Because I interviewed a guy that I don't know if when I interviewed him or a few years before, he was one of the board members on SAG, and he was telling me the number of how many actors, like just actors, can live off of what they make. And it was like some number like in like the 10,000s. Like it wasn't as much. And you got to think how many actors that there are. Oh no, maybe it was like the thousands. It was such a low number. But what's really cool about you is you, like you said, you have to have something to offer. Like when you go into that audition, you obviously you can act, stunt, but one thing that's really cool is now how did you get into the fight coordinating, like the stunt coordinating? That's so important. Like when I talked to Richard, he was actually on set. He was in Atlanta shooting Suicide Squad 2, and he's doing the fight coordinating for that. When he told me what goes into it, I I knew that had to happen and how great like Jackie Chan and Richard stuff is, but just the timing and working one on one with the actors. So how did that opportunity come up for you?
Well, when I was doing stunts, I met a very good friend of mine from Sweden. His name is Stuntman. He's a martial artist. He's a very good fight coordinator, second unit director. And I met him when he was in Thailand. So from there, he took me kind of like under his wing. He brought me on a lot of projects with him. And by working with him, I learned how to shoot action. I learned how to choreograph. And I learned that, okay, the movements doesn't matter. What matters is like how you're going to design it with the camera and the editing. So he showed me a lot of that. And then when the time came for me to get that kind of job as a fight coordinator, it became very easy for me because
Nice.
I have a very my mind, like I create fights very easy. That's something that I'm very like passionate about. It's like I like to create action.
Yeah.
So for me, working with so many people as a stunt or as an actor, I always look how they are designing action. Even if I'm not supposed to be on set sometime, I'll be there on the side looking what they are doing. So after working with Yuen Woo-ping, Jackie Chan, Tim Man, I worked also with Dion Lam. I worked with like many coordinators and choreographers. So I would look what they're doing and then I would apply it to my own style. So it became very natural because after working with so many people, it's like then you take the best out of all, you learn from them, and then you apply it for
Yeah.
yourself. So yeah.
No, that's the best thing. When you're observing other people, you can learn, hey, I'll do what they're doing. And B, I'll never do what they did because it was wrong. So it's good that you take that experience while you're on set when you're not working to still be working, like learning everything. So when did you work with Jackie Chan? What was that like? That was the reason it all started.
I worked with Jackie Chan first in 2014 on a movie called Dragon Blade. Dragon Blade is a movie with Adrian Brody and John Cusack.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's taking place in like the Gobi Desert. It's about Roman soldiers coming to fight Chinese soldiers. So it's kind of that kind of story. So I worked with Jackie Chan's stunt team on that movie as an actor. I thought it was a joke when they contacted me, so I was kind of like, yeah, right on the phone. And then they told me, no, it's really like for this Jackie Chan movie. So I was like, oh, okay. So it took 6 months for them to contact me back because I thought really it was a joke first. But then
Yeah.
when they contacted me back again, I was like, oh, okay, that's for real. So they brought me to China. I did that film. After it was like maybe 1 year after they called me again, I went with them to Russia to work on a Russian movie. And after that, I worked on The Foreigner as well
Oh, nice.
in London. Then I worked on Bleeding Steel for 7 months. That was in Australia and Taiwan and China. And then I did Vanguard. Vanguard was shot in Dubai, India, China, and Taiwan as well, and Africa as well. So yeah, I did, I think, if I'm not wrong, I think I did 5 movies with them.
Wow. Did you ever have a chance to? It's funny. It's like the girl from Smallville. Did you ever have? I'm sure you had a chance to like talk to him. Did you ever tell him like this is why?
Yeah. I mean, I did fight scenes with him. I even did acting scenes with Jackie. I never told him that because, when I get on set, I always try to be professional. And I
Yeah, no,
always
I
try
know.
to kind of be like not try to geek out too much. So I was kind of like, at first when I saw him first, I remember on Dragon Blade, I was kind of like a child. I was like, oh my God, this is like Jackie Chan. But later on, I think because you work with him so many times, I think Jackie expects you to kind of be like, okay, right now you worked with me a couple of times, so now you're gonna be normal with me, right?
Yeah,
So I never said that he was the reason, but I mean everybody that works in this industry
I'm
doing
sure
martial
he's
art
one of the
films,
inspiration. Yeah,
he knows, he kind of knows, right?
that's pretty cool. And you got to think you're one of the guys. That's even better that he sees people that he works with. Especially that is how you shoot movies nowadays. Like you're
Mm.
on set. It's like the old way to make a movie would be like, hey, we're gonna make a movie. Now it's like, how quick can we make the movie? So having like the most familiar people, like directors nowadays, some big time directors in the States would always do it. I'm sure it's something around the world. You have like your lighting guys you work with, your cameraman, because you need to shoot as fast as possible. It's all about
Yeah,
money. So that's
that's
good
right.
that you did the one film and they're like, hey, we like you. Keep coming back. So that's great.
Yeah, I mean, Jackie works this way, okay? Like if you watch a lot of his movies, a lot of the Westerners who work on the movies, they always come and sometimes they think like, okay, I'm gonna get to do this, do that. And the thing is, Jackie, when he does his fight scenes, it's really different from anyone else. He has a certain way of making his fight scenes, and if you don't have a good rhythm and if you don't have a good control, you're out right away. He'll replace you, or he'll put like a stunt double, a Chinese guy that looks nothing like you, or they will put a wig on his head or something like this. So, in a way, the reason why he always call the same people is because he knows, okay, when this guy is gonna punch me, he's not gonna try to take my head off, or when he's gonna kick me, he's not gonna try to wind me out and kick me in the stomach full power.
Yeah.
And in the past, you saw a lot of Westerners coming to do those movies, and they would get doubled, and they would like get like completely like the whole fight scene will be done by a Chinese guy or
Yeah.
something like this. And I think they got tired of that. So they are like, okay, now let's find a couple of guys who are good and can handle what we are doing. And then we don't need to teach them or double them all the time.
No, that's funny. They just put a wig on him. It's some guy from the
Yeah.
States and they do that. So when was the first time? Another thing that's interesting on there. So you obviously want to do stunts. So while you're doing the stunts, did you ever have to do like non-martial art stunts in a movie? Did you ever? Yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But a lot for movies, like I did bike stunts, I did wire stunts, I did height as well,
Whoa.
jumping from a building. Some of those happened a lot
How
on
do you
those Bollywood.
practice for that? How do you how does that come up and you're like, you know what? I want to do that.
Back in the days when I started, when I was 20, I started to do stunts, I was 22.
Oh wow.
So when I started, it was kind of like I didn't have a lot of money. So I was kind of like, okay, I need to get jobs. I need to survive here. Otherwise, I'm going to go back home in France and I'm just going to go back and sell phones and Blackberries and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, I need to get a job, right? So whatever they were call me back then, and I thank God that nothing happened to me. There's an
Yeah.
angel somewhere looking out for me. I will do all these jobs. I mean, I remember jumping from a building 19 stories with a safety wire only, and then climbing that building down. I remember also like jumping off this factory on this roof, holding this rope and swinging around. I remember many of these crazy stuff I've done, and most of it was a lot for those Bollywood movies. I
Yeah.
used to go a lot to India to work on very big Bollywood movies, and they would pay you to do that. They will just bring someone who can do physical stunts and who has, a bit of experience in fighting, wire and everything. And you will end up doing crazy, crazy stunts. And I've done those for maybe a couple of years. And I was like, okay, from 22 until 29, I think I was like, okay, that's it. I don't want to do that no more. So I remember I had a wake-up call one day when I did this stunt. I was on a speedboat on the river, and the stunt person who was driving the speedboat lost control of the speedboat. And I had a police door attached to my hand with a handcuff. So the boat was going down. I managed to unlock myself from this door, and that's it. We were in this massive river in the middle of Bangkok. The boat went down. We were trying to swim, and finally, this boat picked us up. And from there, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm done with this kind of crazy stunts, because I saw a lot of people injuring themselves, losing limbs, or even, some people even dying. So I was like, okay, I need to find a way to kind of like do something that is not too dangerous anymore. And, thank God, back then, I didn't think too much, and I was just doing it. And maybe I was very fit and young.
Yeah.
But now I think, I'm happy that I don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah. And then it's funny you mentioned that, like, hey, that's what it is about making it in Hollywood. From what I talk about, for the most part, they're not like the Steven Seagals or, the big stars that, in every facet, camera, on screen, off screen, it's about putting in the work. And you were like, I'm not going home. I'm not going to sell blackberries. So I'll do this.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
And then not too long after that, like, how does it come up? Obviously, when you get, like you said, you were getting calls for stunt acting. So when you become like a stunt double, like how was that? Because one of the ones I noticed, you might have done it before that, was for Van Damme. That's amazing.
with Jean-Claude, I met Jean-Claude in Thailand. That was in 2008, I remember. So I went to this casting in Thailand for this movie. They were calling it Full Love back then.
Yeah.
I went there, a line, maybe like 250 guys waiting to go and cast for that movie. So I'm like, okay, I see a bunch of bodybuilders, huge meatheads waiting to go there. So I'm like, okay, I'm a little guy at the time, maybe like, 75 kilos back then. So I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm going to get anywhere on this job. So I go do the casting, and surprisingly, they call me back and they are like, oh, Jean-Claude really likes you. So I'm like, okay, so you have to come back for a second casting. So I'm like, okay, so I come back for a second casting, and this time we had to do kind of like some screen test, to see how we look on camera. So we did this. Then they call me back again and they say, okay, they really like you. Okay, you have to come to meet Jean-Claude now. So we come to this big suite, this hotel in Bangkok, and there is Jean-Claude coming down in a robe. I remember he had this robe on, and he's coming down, and then he's starting to talk to all of us. We were like maybe 8 guys. Start to talk about like movies and what he wants to do for the movie and stuff. And then Jean-Claude starts to tell all of us, okay, I want to see you guys walk. So he makes us walk one by one. So after that, he's like, okay, then thank you guys. I'll get in touch with you. So that same night, when I go back home, I get a phone call again. And then they're like, okay, well, you got the job. So I come back there to the hotel. It's freaking like 10 p.m. at night. And then me and 2 other guys that he selected are there. And he's kind of like the wardrobe is kind of like checking our size and stuff to make suits for us. And then one of these guys who got selected start to tell him like, oh, I have this script I want to show you. So Jean-Claude is kind of like, oh, I don't want to, I don't have time for this now. Let's focus on that first. So Jean-Claude goes like, okay, well, I have these names I gave you guys. So Brahim, you're going to be Sergey, and you're going to be you're going to be Carl. And then he look at this guy, he's like, okay, and you're going to be Malik. And this guy completely loses it. He's like, oh no, I don't want to have this name, because I'm a kickboxer. And when I was kickboxing in Japan, they used to call me the Lion. So Jean-Claude doesn't really like that. He started to kind of tell him like, okay, but that's going to be your name, right? And after a while, Jean-Claude tell the guy, okay, you're done. And then the guy goes and then he looks at the casting director and he's like, okay, please, this guy, keep him out of this movie. So in the end, it was only me and that other guy left. And I think, I did my scene, and I think Jean-Claude saw like, okay, I kind of had the same shape as him. So he used me to be his double also on the movie. So I came in to do an acting part, and I did a fight scene with him in a garage.
Oh, nice.
And then I ended up being a stunt double for him as well.
You've done that before too, right? Or was it just for him that you did the double for?
No, I doubled a lot of actors.
Oh, okay.
That was the first time that I doubled Jean-Claude, yes.
But that's funny that do the other actors that you doubled like do what he did? Obviously, he's different than some people. That he actually did the process. That's amazing.
Sair da escola já com uma formação profissional no currículo? Metodologia por projetos? Preparação para o Enem? Atividades extras gratuitas, como acesso a oficinas, simulados, vagas de estágio, Olimpíadas do Conhecimento e muito mais? Esse é o Ensino Médio Técnico do Senac. Quer saber? Senac. Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino médio e saiba mais.
I never had that. I think the only time I had that was with Jean-Claude. He
That's
was
cool.
very, very specific about this whole thing, like about walking and all that. And I don't know. For me, I really like him. He's a great guy. You know, I grew up watching him, and then I'm here doing a movie with him. He's been very nice with me on that film. He brought me every day, even when I didn't need to be there to get paid. I remember he was good, man. He was very, very nice.
That's cool to see somebody like that, because you hear stories about some actors that he cares so much that he's like involved. Like that's being super involved in the process. There's some people that probably just show up on set and it's like, this is your stunt double, and they're like, all right, cool. But that's great that he he saw that. That's amazing.
Yeah, he's a good guy, man.
Some of the other movies that I saw in there are ones that I've seen. So like stunt wise, you did a double in The Hangover.
That's correct. Yes.
What scene was that you were in that?
I was in the scene when the chase, when the motorbike is chasing and with the monkey.
Yeah.
That car chase. I was doubling. I forgot the name of the actor. The guy who has the Mike Tyson tattoo on his face.
Oh yeah, Ed Helms. Yeah.
Yes, I was doubling him. So I never met him. We had, I think, on that movie there was 4 units, man, on that movie.
Oh wow.
It was a big movie. I remember I got on that movie because the original stuntman for him got hurt actually during that scene.
Oh.
So I ended up replacing the guy who got hurt. So I worked on that movie for 1 week. And, to be honest, every time when you get a job, you always think, oh, a car chase is easy, especially when you're the passenger. You're just going to sit in the car and just relax, eat a couple of Oreos and be in the car and relax in the car, right? Because the camera cannot see you. But believe me, man, that car chase was mental. It was very scary. I was in that car for 7 days, and that was really, really scary, man. And also there was a lot of tension because the guy that I was replacing, he had a very, very serious injury.
Oh.
Like, that was a very, very big brain trauma that he had. So
oh my gosh.
There was a lot of stress on that shooting. So I remember when I did that, I was kind of like, at the same time I was happy getting the job, but at the same time I was very worried and sad for that guy.
Yeah, no. And just, oh my God, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Especially the fact of you're doing the same stunt. Did the car crash, or was there something that you had to like lean out of the window? Maybe they took out or something. Like, I
think he had to lean out of the window, and then some maybe some misunderstanding or something, and then I think he hit his head with the vehicle or something. And that was it. But I mean, he didn't die or anything. He's okay now. But that was scary.
No, I bet. And then having to like sit in that seat. No, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you have a role over the years, like your acting side of it, that was like the one that you're like, wow, I can't believe I had this kind of role? What was like the biggest role to you that you've had?
I think, my role in that movie, Boyka Undisputed 4, I
Okay.
played the character of Igor. I think that's something that most people in action movies, they know me because of that. And I also like the last movie I did with Jackie. I had a very, very nice role. You can check it out. It's coming out November 20
Yeah.
in the States. That's called Vanguard, and I played the character of Broto. I think
Sweet.
those two roles are, the ones that I think like, I had a good chance because, believe it or not, but it's very hard opportunity to come by, especially, I don't have an agent. I don't have a manager.
Oh, really?
So
Wow.
no, all the jobs I'm getting is people just calling me, are you free? Or, certain people that I know, maybe, and I don't really cast often for movies. I don't like to cast. So, all of it is kind of like, okay, we have this job for you. That's mostly how it goes. And so, yeah, I mean, those two roles, I think that's what people know me for.
But that's good for you. That means you don't have to pay 10% and
Nope.
that you're working, so people know who you are, that they're reaching out to you. Your IMDb, you have a lot going on, so you're doing something right.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, the 10%, it's maybe, in the States, worldwide, when you have an agent, those numbers, it's never really disclosed, especially in Asia. In Asia, it's really, really, corrupted. It's a lot of people taking advantage of new people coming in the industry. And the thing is, that's one of the reasons why many opportunities I didn't take them, because sometimes I felt like, well, why the hell am I doing this for? I'm getting paid peanuts for nothing, and why I'm gonna, go and do this job for?
Yeah.
Because when there's a middleman, most of the time there's somebody trying to take money out of it. So
Of course.
I always try to, if there's no agent, I'm very happy. But nowadays, I never get agents. It's been many years I didn't use any agent.
Yeah, there was a problem over here in the States that the writers actually struck, because what happened was the agencies were working with the production companies. So the usual 10% that you paid would be like 20%. So there was like a huge strike here like a few years ago. But you're right. Everybody's always trying to get something. So one movie that I really enjoyed that you were in, and you'll know it, Mechanic Resurrection. I'm a huge like Jason Statham fan. Like all the people that you've worked with, like that industry, the movies that keep getting made with the people, they're amazing for a reason. But like Jason Statham, so what was that movie like? Like, what was your part?
Okay. So on Mechanic Resurrection, I got on it really pretty much. It was kind of like there was a casting in town, but I was not allowed to go to that casting because the guy taking charge of that casting didn't really like me. So I was not allowed to go there first. And then this producer called Frank DeMartini, he used to work for Millennium Films.
Oh, nice.
He messaged me and he's like, "Oh, Brahim, where are you?" I'm like, "I'm at home." He's like, "No, you have to go to this casting. They are casting right now in this warehouse in Bangkok." I'm like, "Oh, casting for what?" "Oh, for mechanic." I'm like, "Are you sure I can go there?" He's like, yeah, go there. You just say, you're coming from me. So I'm like, okay. So I went there. And I remember the stunt coordinator was from New Zealand, Alan Popperton. So I came in, I did the casting, and then the stunt coordinator tell the guy who didn't want me to be there, he's like, "Oh, this guy is great. Where was he?" Because, and then they go like, "Okay, are you free from this date to this date?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I'm free." "Okay, yeah, you got the job." So the guy who was handling the casting, of course, he's playing it. He's like, "Oh man, I didn't want to call this guy, but here he is now." So I'm getting on the job, right? And I did this scene when we shot in the Rio Cafe in the introduction. So I did that scene. We rehearsed for that scene maybe 5 days, and then we shot it for maybe 5 days, right? And I remember when we did the scene, you know, JJ Perry, who was the fight coordinator on that movie, he came in, you know, he made us do all that choreo and stuff. But I remember when we did it, Jason was kind of like, you know, he wanted me to do this front flip on the table at the end. You know, he's grabbing my arm and twist my arm and throw me on that table. And I remember he was not happy with the way I was doing it. So he was kind of like, oh, you can do better than that. So I'm like, okay. So I was doing it. I think I did it for 10 times, if I remember correctly. And I think they used the third take on the movie because I remember the way I was landing there. So I did the scene in the cafe, in Rio Cafe. And then they were like, oh, you did good. Are you free to come with us on the boat, right? So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll come on the boat too. So 1 week of work became, I think I worked 5 weeks on that movie.
Whoa.
And then I remember we had also this scene on the boat with Jessica Alba.
Nice.
And the director lined us all up on the boat, and he's like, okay, I need one guy to do this little scene with Jessica Alba. So he's like looking, and I remember I had these shades on, you know, these aviator shades. And he looks like, okay, this guy. So I'm like, okay, great. Then I did this little scene with Jessica Alba. And yeah, working with Statham was great, man. I mean, he's a perfectionist, you know. He's a good action actor. You know, he's like an action star, you know. He's like, you know, for nowadays, you know, he's kind of like an embodiment of all these action stars from the 90s.
Yeah.
And he's like the next generation, kind of. So
no, you're right.
It was great working with him.
Yes, those Transporter movies are awesome. What he did in those movies was just something not like it was never done before, but just those scenes just seem so long. Like he did a lot of action. It seemed like all in one take. There'd be like so much going on with not like a ton of cutaways. So you were like super focused on like what he was doing.
That's right. Yeah, he's very good, man. Choreography is very good. He's a perfectionist.
No, that's cool. That's great that he said, do it again. Do it again.
Yeah, he made me do it like 10 times, I think. I mean, it was not because, you know, he was trying to be rude or something. It was just because, you know, I mean, the table was high, but he was right. In the end, I did pretty good. And it was good, man. I was very happy in the end.
So you were saying earlier that it took you like all around the world. What was like, obviously where you went to like right in the beginning was like a total exotic place compared to, you know, where you grew up. What other places have you shot in? You mentioned India, Taiwan, where else?
Australia, New Zealand, Taiwan, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, India, China.
Here, have you been to the States?
Never. What's the name of that place? Dubai, Russia, Bulgaria, England.
Oh my God.
I think I forget a few. I'm not sure if I forgot a few places.
That's
but
a lot.
I think, yeah. I mean, maybe I forgot a few places, but yeah, that's pretty much. Sri Lanka. I mean, I went to many places. Yeah. In Indonesia now.
Yeah. Oh, is that where you? That's where Tremors was shot. Indonesia.
No. Tremor was shot in Thailand, but
okay.
In Indonesia, I'm doing another movie at the moment.
Man, just think when you start it, when you're like 14 and you think about doing this, just like that, not only it's a job that you're living off of, but also that it's like a passport that you had an opportunity like to travel. Was there a favorite place that you went to, like traveling wise, that you enjoyed? Not even just the movie, but
I would say, you know, out of all those places I've been to in my entire life, I think, you know, the best place I've been, I think it's Thailand.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing beating Thailand for me, because Thailand is very much a place, you know, that is very, very nice to chill, to relax. It's a very, very affordable place. You know, you don't need to have that much money to have a good life. The people are nice. We're having, you know, like a Florida weather the whole year round. And, you know, it's for me, I really like the place because it's the place that gave me like, my first start in movies.
Yeah.
So no matter what happens, I had many opportunities to go live in other places. I could go back to France if I wanted. I can even move to other places. But for me, I decided to just base myself in Thailand, and that's it. And it doesn't matter where I am, to be honest. Thailand. You see, I went to Europe. I went everywhere in the world. So it doesn't really matter anymore. I even had job offers to go to America. And for me, it really doesn't matter. But I like Thailand the most.
That's awesome. And so what was Tremors like? Was that the first time you shot with like a lot of CGI?
Yeah, I never saw the monsters until I saw the movie. I saw it on Netflix. I remember we were all reacting to like, oh, a graboid, ass blasters, all these things. And we're like, where? Like, okay, you will see them when the movie is finished. But it was cool, man. I mean, it was 6 weeks in the south of Thailand in this place called Krabi. It was nice, very chilled movie, easy stunts. I doubled John Heder on that movie.
Oh, you did?
I did, yes. And I also played a little part in the movie. I was one of the soldiers in the movie.
Yeah, no, I saw that
hunters.
on there. Yeah.
Yes. So it was fun, man. I doubled him for the wire gags and also for that flamethrower sequence.
Yeah.
So it was fun, man.
Yeah, I watched it last night.
Oh, you watched it last night?
Yeah, because I love those movies, and I love the fact that Michael Gross, the star.
Oh, he's cool, man.
So growing up here in the States, obviously those first movies came out, but like I knew him from like Family Ties, which was like a sitcom with Michael J. Fox. And he's like this really nice dad in the show. But then like you watch Tremors and he's like this like graboid killer, tremor killer, and like all the movies, but it's cool. He's in every one. And I loved his part in this movie that he was kind of like away from it. And then he got like brought back into it. But so they didn't have anything. They just said react to a graboid over there. There was nobody like in a costume, like green screen outfit or anything.
No, man, nothing. That was it. That was just like, okay. The director would be like, graboid. He would yell it. I remember, graboid. And then literally he would say like, okay, when I yell graboid, that means you look to the left and then, shrieker. And then you look to the right for shrieker or something like this. So yeah, it was the way, we've done that. And then somebody from, the special effect department would come with some material, like some of their tools, and do something after, and they will take clean plates, a lot of clean plates.
Yeah.
And that would be it. But it was fun, man. Very, I mean, don't get me wrong, man. That movie was fun. But when I fired that flamethrower, that was one hell of a freaking experience, man. That flamethrower was crazy.
Oh my God.
And if you see the wardrobe of Jimmy in that movie, he's having this Hawaiian shirt, this nice short. I mean, I was feeling like I was burning, man, when I did this.
Oh my God.
I even had gel on my body, like fire gel on my body. Still, it didn't help. I was still feeling like I was burning, man. That was crazy.
Did they just, did you get a chance to practice, or they just said we have to do it on the take because you don't want to like ruin a shot?
Well, no, I practiced one time, but I had a full fireman outfit when I did it. And then they're like, okay, on the day, you're going to fire that flamethrower, but with your Hawaiian shirt and your shorts.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, okay, that's going to be fun. So I remember the first take we did, I remember in that movie, 2 of them fired the flamethrower. So that was me, and that was the double of Michael right next to me. So both of us firing that thing, it was unbelievably hot.
God.
It was crazy. The first take I did, I remember I had to be like, cut. I walked to the side. I was like, that's too hot, man. Bring more fire gel.
Oh my God. No, you know what's cool about the technology with CGI? I don't know if you've ever seen like the Anaconda sequels. I interviewed a guy that directed them and a girl that was in them. And maybe it's like 15 years ago, and I just watched it like a year ago. It just didn't, the CGI just doesn't hold up. But for this movie, the CGI looks phenomenal. The graphics look so good. And the fact that you guys are reacting to nothing, because sometimes they'll have like somebody in a green screen outfit so your eyes can like, but that's even crazier that they were able to do that much in post to make it look that good.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like, we didn't react to anything, to be honest. Like, there was nothing at all. No green screen. No, nobody in a green running around. None of that. No.
That's cool that you're able to, because some of those movies are shot in a studio, but it's cool that it's like shot on like how good that movie looks. But that's so cool that so when was that filmed? Was it last year or the beginning of this year?
It was filmed last year, right before Christmas.
Oh, okay. Do you have a dream person? Obviously you worked with a lot of like the heroes in like the action industry. Is there somebody that you would love to work with?
Yeah, Tony Jaa.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think Tony Jaa, I would like to do a movie where I can fight with him, like a nice fight scene. And also I would like to work with the main actor from The Raid, Iko Uwais.
Yeah. Oh,
those two guys are the last two I need to work with.
Well, you still have a lot of time. You're pretty young still. So that's amazing. Just how you started. And that's so cool that you just like took this like whim, like, hey, I'm going to go try this. Everyone else goes back and you stay. That means a lot to why you're still doing it and why you're able to keep it going. So last question I always ask people before we're done. And thanks so much for taking the time, man. If you weren't doing this, obviously at the age of 14, you looked at, Jackie Chan, you're like, this is something I want to do. And obviously you didn't want to sell cell phones and Blackberries in a mall somewhere. Was there anything else you thought of before that, like career wise, that you wanted to do? Obviously you went for law, but you didn't. Was that what it was? Like, do you want to be a lawyer or you just did that?
No, man, I just did that to make my family happy. But to be honest, there is nothing else I wanted to do, man.
That's awesome.
Nothing. I never had like a plan B or whatever. I was just like, that's what I need to do. And I'm just going to put 100% on it. And if I fall, I'll just fall on on my back and I'll try to stand up again, not try to fall flat on my face.
So I lied about this is the last question. So what about when like your parents, how were they when you first start? Obviously in the beginning, like you said, nobody wants all parents are like, oh, my kid's going to be trying to be like an actor, being in films. When was it the fact that they were like, okay, this is pretty cool?
I think, maybe I would say 2 years after, maybe when I started. At first they were like, oh, just come back home. And then they started to see like, a couple of photos I would send them about, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then they were like, oh, okay, well, he's doing something. Okay, just keep on doing this. That's fine. Just keep on doing it. Just
nice.
So it took them maybe 2 years. And then they were like, okay, just keep on doing that. You're doing good.
Yeah. Now I have a daughter, so I can imagine that. Like, even though I love this stuff, it's like you never want your kid to fail. And that's it. It's an industry that has like a high failure rate, but you had what it takes, obviously, and you do so much. There's some people that are just like the actor or the writer, so it's cool that you can perform so many different facets, like the real stunts, the martial arts, the fight coordinating. So that's awesome. And man, this has been great. Thanks so much for taking the time. The daylight savings, it's so America, I think, is the only, I don't know, maybe England does it, but it's the stupidest thing that they change it, the time zone over here, like once a year.
Yeah. I know, man. I know. They do it in France as well.
Oh, they do? Okay, yeah. It just makes no sense. Then you forget about other countries that don't do it. But appreciate it. Stay safe. Good luck with the filming. And now I have to go watch Mechanic Resurrection again.
Thank you, man.
Brahim is so great. I love his outlook on everything, like even in that stunt scene, he didn't hang over too. He was just in the passenger seat, but that guy who was in the passenger seat the last time got hurt really bad. So just hearing how he like deals with some of these situations, working with the flamethrowers and, how hot it got. And he's like, whoa, I got to stop. I got to put more gel on. And I just love that he goes to, Indonesia, with those group of guys from France. and they don't get the movie, and everybody goes back, and he's like, no, I'm going to stay. He was almost a lawyer, but you know what? It was all about not wanting to sell those cell phones, those Blackberries. That was Brahim's motivation. So thank you, Brahim. And don't forget your homework, Mechanic 2 or Mechanic Resurrection, Jason Statham. Honestly, the guy does not put out a bad movie. And the fact that he had Brahim do the stunt 10 times the flip, because, you know, not like Jason was being a dick like Brahim said. He just knew he could do it great. So yeah, don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. And don't forget to check out our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.